Ever wondered why Wimbledon remains the most prestigious tournament in the world? Players grow up dreaming of playing on its iconic center court.
Wimbledon is a favorite tournament and a dream tournament of not just myself, but so many, probably majority of the tennis players. You know, growing up, most of the kids, dream of playing here and winning here.
And fans like us, we dream of visiting Wimbledon at least once in our lifetime. Today, we're stepping foot on Wimbledon's pristine grounds and going behind the scenes to know everything there is to know about this place. From its rich culture, traditions, and history, down to the queue, the foods, and the overall fan experience. But here's the crazy part. We're going to be joined by a local who knows these grounds about as well as anyone out there. And she just so happens to be the #2 British player in the world. This is Wimbledon. Yes, we're here in SW19, and today we are actually going behind the scenes around the facility here before the tournament's even started. Come on, let's go have a look. The field trip begins. First time at Wimbledon. Let's go. Yeah, it's my first time. Yeah. You can just feel the history here. Like, you could see this is why this is one of the coolest places in the world where tennis has ever been held. And honestly, yeah, just honored to be here and super excited to see just what's behind the scenes. Thank you. Just like me, thousands of fans flock towards these perfectly maintained grounds for a 2-week period every year, just for a chance to see the stars play. This unique British summer experience is all the more elevated by Wimbledon's beautiful scenery. The tournament has a grounds team to look after all of the greenery which isn't grass, like Court 1's incredible living wall, and Center Court's iconic ivy, which has been growing for about 100 years, not to mention an additional 50,000 plants and flowers. And apparently these installations that they have set up are costing hundreds of thousands of pounds each year just for the tournament. The All England Croquet Club was founded in 1868, but for a completely different sport, croquet. The following year, the club moved to its first permanent site at Whirple Road. Fast forward to 1875, and one lawn was given over to the new game of lawn tennis, which quickly overtook croquet in popularity. By the spring of 1877, the club was renamed the All England Croquet and Lawn Tennis Club, and the rules were made. The story of how the championships at Wimbledon actually got started is pretty interesting. In 1877, the club actually ran out of money, so what did they do? It's not like they decided to charge their members more. Instead, they held a tournament where the members played and they invited spectators to watch, but for a fee. The end result was that they raised a little bit of cash and decided that the tournament was a success. So what did they do? They held it again the very next year, and the Wimbledon Championships were born. The inaugural edition featured just 22 male players, with each man paying the equivalent of 11 quid as an entry fee. S.W. Gore won the very first edition of the championships here in 1877, and the best part? He didn't even want his cash prize. Instead, he told the club to reinvest it into future editions of the tournament, which just continues with the selfless themes of growing the game here at Wimbledon. Just 5 years later, the word croquet was dropped from the club's name, and the activities were almost exclusively confined to tennis alone. The ladies' singles was then introduced in 1884. Honestly, this place feels like stepping into a time machine where traditions from the 19th century are still alive and kicking. Wimbledon had non-British players competing for the first time at the turn of the 20th century, and American May Sutton became the first international winner of the tournament in 1905. Tennis at the Olympics was then played on the grounds in 1908, but a major change was about to happen in the not-so-distant future. The club moved from Whirple Road to Church Road in 1922. Between 1934 and 1936, we saw the legendary Fred Perry pull off a Wimbledon three-peat.
It's a triumph for Perry to be the only man to win the title for the third successive year.
And so over here we have the statue of Fred Perry, one of the OG greats to take center court. Wimbledon was then televised for the first time in 1937, but something devastating would happen shortly after. World War II began, and just like in the First World War, Wimbledon was cancelled for a few years. Except that this time, a bomb hit a corner of the competitors' stand at center court. 1,200 seats were lost. The tournament resumed in 1946. A decade later, in 1957, Althea Gibson became the first black player to win Wimbledon, and Queen Elizabeth was on hand to present her with the trophy in her first visit to the tournament as queen. It's now 1968, and it's the dawn of the Open era, and the 4 Grand Slams have now allowed professionals to compete with amateurs for the first time. On top of that, Wimbledon would now offer prize money. The first winners of the Open era, Rod Laver and Billie Jean King, won 2,000 pounds and 750 pounds respectively. But let's pause here for a minute and go down to the courts where we'll be meeting up with our special guide. So Sonia, just as a Brit, I mean, you made your debut here in 2022 as a wild card.
Yeah.
And as far as Grand Slam performances go, I mean, that must have been an incredible feeling, just stepping out on court here for the first time. Just what was it like?
You know, I mean, I always remember being told. I think it's that moment where the dream is kind of reality, and you know, as a kid, you dream of coming here, and so yeah, you know, coming out, playing my first ever Grand Slam main draw, and with it being at my home slam was just, you know, unbelievable. Unfortunately, didn't get the result, but you know, I loved absolutely every single second of it out here. I had some good matches last year. Played on court 3. It's kind of got my revenge from court 3. But yeah, then stepping out on court 1 as a Brit was unbelievable.
So do you remember, just as far as being nervous when you stepped out on court? I mean, the vibe of Wimbledon is just intense.
It's a lot of pressure, but I think it's just pressure you put on yourself. You know, you want to play well in front of your family, in front of your friends.
Right, I'm sure they all showed out for you.
For
too.
sure, yeah. I mean, yeah, everyone comes and gives you support. You know, whether that's from my family, my friends, or you know, people from my club.
We're actually going into center court. This is easily one of the coolest things I've experienced in the tennis world. So this is who's won here as a junior, which it's a pretty crazy list. Borg, Lendl, Pat Cash, Edberg, Gael Monfils in 2004. It's amazing that he's still playing at the level that he is. Dimitrov, Kuznetsov, Noah Rubin, who we just filmed with, Opelka, Shalpo. Let's see who puts their name on the list in 2025. Wimbledon is the only Grand Slam played on grass. We've seen several legends dominate their sides of the sport, from Stan Smith, Chris Evert, and Arthur Ashe, to John McEnroe, Becker and Steffi Graf, to Agassi and Sampras, to Roger, Rafa, and Novak, and now seeing Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner's dominance come to the forefront. There she is. That is the Wimbledon trophy. But let's dig a level deeper into how things are run here. So here's the crazy thing about Wimbledon. The All England Club is actually entirely privately owned by 375 members who decide everything about the championships. It's really unlike any other Grand Slam. Let's now see what's going on center court. All right, now this is really cool. We're about to see one of the most historic tennis courts in the world, center court at Wimbledon. Wimbledon center court, pretty crazy. Drop a comment if you've been here. Come on, let's go have a look. This is just a bit surreal to be here, Wimbledon center court. It's kind of crazy where YouTube takes you, and really it's because of all of you watching and liking and engaging with our videos that have even made this possible in the first place. So really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, and just enjoy this, because this is really something else. Come on, let's go down a bit closer. This is just one of the cathedrals of tennis in the world. And you think about just the great champions that have played and won here. Roger has the most titles. He won 8. Martina Navratilova on the women's side, she won 9. And Carlos Alcaraz has been etching his name in the history books seemingly year after year. But what does sitting on the center court seats feel like? The seats are really good quality. You know, they have like a leather back, some actual padding. Probably the most comfortable stadium seat I think that I've actually had the pleasure of experiencing myself. But that's the thing about Wimbledon. It's just all of these little details and everything is just perfect. Now compare those seats to the primitive conditions from 150 years ago, where a temporary 3-plank stand was used as a seat for 30 people. The total attendance for the final back then was about 200, so we know just how much things have changed since then. And what about the viewing experience? How is it different from any of the other Grand Slams? The one other crazy thing about center court at Wimbledon that I just don't think anywhere else in the world compares to is just how close to the action you really can get. I mean, we're just meters from where the play would be. But here's the shocking thing about Wimbledon that many from the outside looking in don't know. The The size of the arena is totally different. One of the things about center court that's always really surprised me is that it's actually not that big of a stadium. Everything in here is incredibly intimate, and not just the seats that we're sitting in right now that are right next to the court. There literally isn't a bad view in the house. Wimbledon center court has a capacity of just under 15,000. Now compare that with Arthur Ashe, which has almost 24,000 seats. Why can't Wimbledon just expand its capacity and make more money from ticket sales? I'm sure we'll find our answer when we talk a bit about how the business is run. Meanwhile, let's continue with the tour though. The other thing that the All England Club did that was a brilliant move on their part was installing a roof here. Now, of any of the surfaces in tennis, grass is by far the most finicky when it gets wet. If you have a wet grass court, you can't play on it for like a really long time. And as you could imagine, it kind of disrupts the flow of a major tournament. So when they put the roof on in 2009, what Wimbledon was able to do was ensure that play would go on no matter the conditions. And the best part is that even if this court does manage to get a few drops of water on it, the grounds crew has the drying down to a science, so that play can go on in a relatively short amount of time. Now, it's one thing to sit on the regular seat, but it's a totally different experience when you're at the south end at the Royal Box or on the seats reserved for the player guests. Right behind me here is the Royal Box. Now this is really cool. You just think of all of the royalty. The Queen herself has literally sat right there. That's something else. Honestly, I wonder what it takes to get an invite to sit there. But one thing's for sure, we're definitely not getting in with our spot in the queue. Now, whether you're Novak Djokovic or someone making their debut on center court, one of the really nice things that the All England Club does is allocates you tickets so that your friends and family can come and see you play. If you look right here, players, guests, this looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 18, and then another 18 on the other side. So 36 seats in total allocated for player guests. Pretty generous if you ask me, and definitely you can only imagine that for someone making their debut here on center court, you'd want to give those tickets to as many people as you can. Directly behind the Royal Box, we have the members only seating. How many members are there at the All England Club? Well, 375, and one thing's for sure, that behind the king, they definitely have some of the best seats in the house.
Oh look, here we go. Radas and Alcaraz.
Oh, okay.
Are they finished?
Look at what we just walked in on. I swear we didn't plan this.
Mixed open doubles.
Yeah, Emma and Alcaraz. Yeah, that's your US Open mixed doubles team practicing right there. You were saying when you were coming to Wimbledon just as a fan, did you ever do the queue?
You know, I did. I camped once.
You camped once?
Yeah, I camped once.
What was that like? We're doing that actually very soon.
I'm not gonna lie, it was tough. It was tough. It's an early get up. I think it's like 4 o'clock they're coming and then like shaking your tents to wake you up.
Oh no.
Yeah, 4 a.m.
I can't wake up in the morning.
And you're standing in that queue for hours. But once you're in, you're in. Yeah, I mean, I camped once. I came here. I've watched my friends play the juniors here. I used to come and try and get as many people autographs as I could around the grounds and just watch all my favourite players.
Makes you fall in love with tennis.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes it even more special now to be able to come back and be on the other side, I guess, and to be the one playing and to just, roles just completely reversed now.
Right, that must be really trippy because now you're the inspiration for the kid who was in your shoes.
Sure.
I mean, not even that long ago.
Sure. It was nice. Listen, like last week I was at my home tournament in Eastbourne as well. So yeah, it's nice now that it's completely flipped. I guess it shows that I've done good things, and I think if kids want to autographs or things like that, to me that's I take it as a big compliment. It means I'm doing good things in the sport.
Absolutely. So just to go back to the queue for a second. I mean, just your face right there told me so many things that I feel like I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, what tips do you have for us? Like, are we actually going to die doing this?
No. Honestly, I think bring a lot of food, bring a lot of good snacks, bring a lot of, fun things to do. Like, I don't know if you guys like card games or things like that, maybe like football or something.
Still, one of the most talked about things at Wimbledon is the grass itself and the extra measure of care that goes into maintaining it. Each year, the grounds crew takes a couple of inches off the topsoil. Then a new topsoil with the same chemical composition as underneath is added along with new grass seeds in October. Underneath the court is a massive concrete base that slides out for drainage, and then we have 8 inches of coarse gravel, 8 inches of fine gravel, and 8 inches of topsoil. Sometimes the lack of sunshine could be a problem, so what does Wimbledon do? They have artificial light rays to take care of that.
This has got to be some of the most pristine grass I've ever seen. 8 millimeters, every blade perfectly cut. There's a reason that these courts are the best in the world.
As the grass is growing, it's pretty crazy the security measures that the tournament has in place just to make sure that the grass comes in just as beautifully as the year before. So apparently here in SW19, they have a problem with foxes and birds. So what do? Well, they have dog patrols to scare away the foxes and even leave a scent so that the foxes are deterred from coming in the first place. And as for the birds, well, they even have an official hawk that is designed to scare away pigeons, and apparently it's pretty effective. Rumor has it the animal problem got so bad one year that they even put up electrified nets around every court just to make sure the grass grew unbothered. During the winter, the grass is kept at a height of 13 millimeters, and as spring draws closer, it's trimmed down by 1 millimeter each week until it reaches the tournament standard of 8 millimeters. Not a hair more or less. From May onwards, the grass is then cut 2 to 3 times a week, but during the tournament, it's cut every single day to maintain that razor-sharp consistency. Cutting the grass isn't the only daily activity the grounds team carries out, though. The moisture level and firmness of the grass are also 2 variables which impact the way tennis is played. Wimbledon uses a Clegg impact hammer to test the firmness of the surface. It tends to start around 170 to 200 gravities and can be as high as 250 by the end of the tournament. This number increase translates to faster, harder, and higher bouncing courts as the days go by. Ever wonder why players like Rafa and now Iga thrive during the second week? The club tries to keep the moisture at the root, which is about 50 millimeters below the surface, to 15 to 20%. Maintenance crews also brush, roll, and paint the lines daily to maintain their perfect look on the grass. This isn't just any normal grass. It's rye, and it's used because of its combination of durability and playability. Now, one of the really interesting things that you'll notice about Wimbledon is where the grass actually wears over the course through the tournament. Apparently, back in the day when players were serving and volleying, you'd almost get a trench going from the service line up to the net. But now, with the changes in racket technology and string technology, where we see a lot more baseline play, a lot more of the wear happens along the baseline. Just a subtle change that's happened over the years, but pretty cool to note. Let's move on to the next biggest court on the grounds. All right, come on, let's go take a look at Court 1. Court 1 was constructed in 1997 to replace the old Court 1. Its own retractable roof was fitted in time for the 2019 championships. Court 1 is a favorite for many people, and just like center court, a lot of measures are put in place to prevent the grass from any damage, and really, I can understand why. I think this is also just like one of the funny things about Wimbledon. But believe it or not, when play isn't happening, to keep the courts as pristine as possible, there's actually a rule that nobody, not even the players, are allowed on the grass. And, well, they actually enforce it. That guy is going to sit there as long as there are people on site, watching the court like a hawk. You just know nothing is getting by these guys. Court 1 is the second stadium here at Wimbledon and has a capacity of 12,345. Pretty easy to remember. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Anyway, the roof was put on here in 2019, so Wimbledon actually only had 1 covered court before then, and now play is actually a lot more expedited even when it rains. The roof here closes in about 10 minutes, and it's a pretty heavy piece of machinery, so they still need to tarp the court and have the blowers going underneath to make sure that everything stays dry. The hill is the hub of the party culture here at Wimbledon. As you can see, there are 3 bars here, and things maybe get a little rowdy. So much so that apparently there's a running bet between the security advisors that are stationed here on how many people will fall into the stream doing this each day. They set it at 1.5. But anyways, this is where I was hanging out with Sone.
Yeah, if we go along on the grass there, that's where I used to like sit as a kid and watch the matches on the big screen they play it.
Okay, well, riddle me this.
Yep.
If you come to Wimbledon and let's say you queued.
Yep.
why wouldn't you go into the stadium where you had the ticket? Why are you coming here to basically watch TV on the grass?
Well, no, it wasn't always there. I only camped once, but like, you know, there were some times that maybe I just had like a ground pass or I didn't manage to get tickets to the bigger court. So yeah, sometimes we would, I guess if you don't have ticket to centre, this is the place to come.
Well, what's the vibe like here?
Busy. You'll see Monday, it's trying to get a spot on, just one spot on this grass is, yeah, it's tough.
So this is like the prime real estate right here,
this,
right?
I mean, if you can get a spot here, you've absolutely outdone yourself. Yeah, you are golden.
And then on top of that, it looks like you have 1, 2, 3 bars surrounding this.
Exactly.
I mean, look, I know how the
got,
Brits
listen,
are.
You've got just down there, you've got a food spot as well. So
oh, food down there too?
Yeah, this is the prime spot to be, I think. Yeah, this is always very busy.
Just surreal to be here.
When it's quiet as well. It feels weird to be here when it's, you know, you don't see it like this. On Monday, this is going to be packed.
Different story.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, and by the way, the Dun in Wimbledon literally means hill, and this is because it's very hilly out here in the neighborhood. Of course, we can't talk about Wimbledon without discussing the food. The iconic snack that everyone tries here is strawberries and cream, and for the very reasonable price of £2.70, you can get some for yourself. Obviously, with a deal like that, it's pretty popular. Over 2 million strawberries and 10,000 liters of cream are served every year at Wimbledon, and I have to say, eating strawberries and cream while watching the tennis from the hill is a must-do tennis experience. Now, I don't drink too much, but when at Wimbledon, I knew I had to try a Pimm's. This cocktail was actually invented back in the 1800s, originally as a health drink. Its base is gin, followed by a lemon or lime soda, and then garnished with more fruits and juices than you think could go into an alcoholic drink. It was honestly pretty good, and definitely one of the iconic flavors of Wimbledon, but be careful because you definitely don't taste the alcohol in each sip.
On June 22nd, 2010, at 6:13 p.m., right here behind me, began the longest match in the history of Wimbledon. John Isner, who was ranked 19th in the world at the time, took on the Frenchman Nicolas Mahut, and when both guys stepped on court, they definitely didn't know that they were about to make tennis history. Isner took the first set, Mahut took the second and third, before Isner evened things up by taking the tiebreak in the fourth. Then, at 9:07 p.m., play was suspended until the next day. Little did both guys know when they showed up the next day, they were about to play a marathon fifth set that would go on for more than 8 hours. Play continued until the fifth set was tied at 59 games all, before daylight faded again and the match had to be postponed yet another day. Isner eventually went on to win the match 70-68, sealing the deal after 11 hours and 5 minutes.
Now, since this match wreaked havoc on the Wimbledon schedule and caused the tournament organizers to do every form of scheduling gymnastics, a rule change was actually instituted the following year to make sure something like the Isner-Mahut match would never happen again at SW19. Zooming over to the economic side at Wimbledon, and what do we find? This is a graph of revenue per attendee made at slams in 2023. And as you can see, Wimbledon is the highest. So just how does Wimbledon, with a smaller court capacity, make more money than some of the other slams? And more importantly, just how much money are they leaving on the table on purpose? Wimbledon's unique approach to sponsorships is something that needs to be studied. When you think of the Australian Open, which sponsor comes to mind? Kia, right? When you see the courts at Roland Garros, what do you find? BNP Paribas, Rolex, and a few others. At the US Open, Chase and American Express are everywhere. Now, think of Wimbledon, and what do you see? No sponsor ads on the court. The All England Club has well over a dozen official sponsors aligned with the club. For the balls, we have Slazenger, who have supplied the championship since 1902, the longest running sponsorship deal in all of sports. Rolex is the official timekeeper, and Babolat is the endemic tennis sponsor. They're responsible for many things, but interesting to me is that all the stringers at the tournament are Babolat stringers, and all of the shoes provided are Babolat shoes. We're also here making this video as a guest of Babolat, so thanks guys for making this happen. For Wimbledon, the clean court philosophy is at the heart of the brand, and this is something respected by the global partners and broadcasters. For the All England Club, the limited partnerships allows the club to maximize the relationships on its own terms. So essentially, instead of maximizing revenue for the short term, Wimbledon is building relationships to future-proof the championships long term. Wimbledon sponsors combined to bring in over £40 million a year. However, this only accounts for roughly 15% of Wimbledon's revenue. So where does the rest come from? Well, ticket revenue adds up to about £50 million a year, while concessions reach upwards of £40 million annually. But where does the rest come from? Well, here you have your answer: TV rights. Wimbledon has been on the BBC for the longest time. BBC has the domestic TV rights to broadcast matches in the UK, and they currently pay £60 million per year to exclusively broadcast Wimbledon. However, new faces coming into the fold are forcing the BBC to increase that deal to keep the level of coverage going forward, and rival broadcasters are also starting to put pressure on them. When it comes to international broadcast rights, we had NBC from 1995 to 2011. Since 2011, it's primarily been ESPN. The recent deal with Wimbledon is now worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Wimbledon is able to generate about half of its revenue from broadcasting alone. Wimbledon became the last Grand Slam to award equal prize money for men and women in 2007. Another significant change that popped up shortly after was the curfew. Unlike the other three majors, all matches at Wimbledon have to finish before 11 p.m. It's played out this way since 2009, and Wimbledon is now the only Grand Slam that retains a nighttime curfew. The reasoning behind the curfew is to protect local residents from late-night disturbances. Plus, the challenge of transport, connectivity, and getting visitors home safely is also a consideration. In October 2024, it was announced that line judges would be replaced by electronic line calling technology on all courts starting at the 2025 tournament. As far as the traditions go, Wimbledon is known for being very strict with the rules. Rules that you wouldn't find at any of the other Grand Slams, and yet somehow they make it work. Some people get intimidated by the rules, but for others, it's a festival, the closest thing to a religious experience in sports. Dark green and purple are the traditional Wimbledon colors. However, all tennis players participating in the tournament are required to wear all white clothing. Shirts, shorts, socks, headbands, everything white. And even if you have a tiny little color accent on your white, it must not be that of any identifiable brand. Wimbledon has had its iconic white dress code since it began nearly 150 years ago. It was originally put into place since white is the color which most conceals sweat stains, which were deemed improper and unsightly. This, however, was just a tradition until 1963, when Wimbledon then officially declared that competitors must be dressed predominantly in white. Throughout the 1980s, players were seen with stripes and patterns until the rules became even stricter in 1993, where colored trimmings couldn't be wider than just a single centimeter. This wasn't well received by Andre Agassi, who boycotted Wimbledon from 1988 to 1990 since he wasn't allowed to express himself with his outfits. Over the years, a few other players have been affected by these rules. Anna Kournikova had to borrow shorts from her coach in 2002 as she stepped out onto the practice courts in black shorts. Venus Williams had to change her sports bra in 2017 since it was visibly pink. Ons Jabeur was forced to change after practicing in a black t-shirt in 2023, and even Roger Federer was dinged back in 2013 for having bright orange shoe soles. It literally took 6 decades up until 2023 before the rules allowed female players to wear non-white underwear after they expressed their concerns about playing the tournament during their periods. By tradition, the men's and women's competitions are referred to as gentlemen's and ladies' competitions at Wimbledon. As far as tickets go, the majority of center and show court tickets sold to the general public have since 1924 been made available by a public ballot that the All England Club holds at the start of the year. For us normal people, to get access to the show courts, fans normally have to queue overnight. I'll talk about how I survived the Wimbledon queue in another video. Wimbledon has tons of rules, but for me, the best of the bunch is the champagne rule. Wimbledon also has the Champions Dinner, formerly known as the Champions Ball, which is an event organized at the end of the tournament where we have a dinner and a dance between the men's and women's singles winners. This year's edition saw Jannik Sinner pair up with Iga Swiatek. After seeing the effort that goes into maintaining the grass and the culture at the All England Club, it's easy to see why Wimbledon has since implemented harsh fines for racket smashing. Players can be fined up to 10,000 quid for smashing their rackets, and Serena Williams was fined twice in 2016 and 2019. Heather Watson got slapped with one of the largest fines in 2016. Djokovic was also fined in 2023 after smashing his racket in the final against Alcaraz. At the end of the day, not everyone is going to be cool with the traditions and rules, but you've got to give Wimbledon credit for the way that they go about the tournament. So there's everything you need to know about Wimbledon, from the iconic facilities, the insane economics, and the quirky traditions that make this tournament one of the most unique on the calendar each year. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and until next time, keep going for the line.